Hello, hello, everyone. I am Kelly Blackman, success coach, and I am here with Jason Lebowitz. Uh, hey, Jason. Uh, Before we get started tonight, guys, I do want to mention because I always forget this beforehand. Uh, be sure to comment. Jason is a great human being, he's a wonderful guy. And be sure to comment so we can answer any questions you may have. Be sure to hit those reactions, likes, loves, everything. We appreciate it all. And also, be sure to follow these hashtags. So you'll see them flash up on the screen occasionally. All right. With that all said, let me go ahead and play us in, Jason, with our quick intro, and we'll get started.
Have you ever wondered why you struggle to find success or fulfillment or lasting happiness? It's probably because your default wiring is set to lose. The How to Win at Everything podcast looks at real people who have struggled with the same insecurities, fears, doubts, and expectations and found a way to succeed. Why? Their brains are rewired for success. We dive into their thought patterns to show you how to rewire your own brain to win at everything.
So, hello, hello, everyone. Again, I am Kelly Blackman. I'm here with Jason Lebowitz, the co-founder of XXO. And Jason, I want to jump right in, man, because there's always so much to talk about, and we're usually running out of time. So, tell us about you. Tell us what you do.
What I do is I'm a founder of XXO, which XXO Connect. We are building a connection app and platform. So, founder of a company.
All right. So the beautiful part here, and as we'll get into it, we'll really dive into why this is such an extraordinary thing. But here, tell us a little bit about XXO Connection. Tell us what's unique about it, and what you're really doing here.
What we're doing is we're creating. We've set out to restore connection to humanity. So, to me, we've had this loss of connection to ourselves and each other, and even from watching your introduction, which I get excited about hearing that introduction. um, about unwiring and rewiring. But
Yeah.
we're more connected than ever today, and yet we've
Hmm.
had this loss of connection to each other, but to ourselves. And so there's this tremendous amount of distraction where we're distracting from spending time with ourselves, getting to know ourselves, having that
Hmm.
relationship with ourselves. And there's been this loss of intimacy and vulnerability. So we've kind of taken all these different things of what's going on, and we set out to build the largest global safe space, personal growth, transformational, and wellness platform to eliminate the fear of intimacy and vulnerability. And so we're creating a large global platform and app. Yeah.
Okay. So I know that one of the things that are going to probably come up a lot and pretty immediately is this a dating site? Is this a dating app? Or is there something more to it? There's something different about this.
This is not a dating app. This will be a platform that's so against the grain of every other platform. So all other platforms today, LinkedIn, Facebook, on and on, are built for connection to others. Our
Hmm.
platform is built for connection to self and then
Mm.
others. So ours is creating literally a safe space, a training ground to spend time with yourself, get to know yourself. We have an educational video platform where people can watch videos on self love, self worth, body image, shame,
Nice.
forgiveness, so many different topics. And then they can take these topics and share in random one-on-one video conversations with other XXO Connect community members
Wow.
where there's a safe space where you're not going to be judged to share. So let's say I watch a video on self-worth and it triggers something, and so maybe even I go to therapy, but I fear talking to my therapist because I even feel my therapist
Sure.
is going to judge me on certain things.
Sure.
But Kelly pops up on the video, someone I've never met, and I can share in a real conversation and really break down that fear of intimacy and vulnerability and share things I've never told anybody. So we have all these different components, and then we're breaking down into creating a kids network in a way that the kids consume these types of subjects. Like kids today, they value their worth based on the likes of others or how many likes they get. And so we're taking how they consume it, which is cartoon, with these same types of subjects.
Mm, mm,
We'll have live master classes, and when
right.
I say a safe space, not only safe space to feel comfortable sharing in conversation, but literally a safe space of personal information. There's not going to be external Google or Facebook logins, alternative logins. We're not sharing information. We're creating this closed network where people
Mm.
can feel safe in every which way.
Now that's pretty darn unique. Now I don't know if you've seen this. I was just watching the Social Dilemma with my family, Netflix documentary, and they're talking about this business model that social media uses, and it's all predicated on the idea that attention is like the greatest resource. So people are selling our privacy to basically put our eyes on whatever the highest bidder is going to look for. And that is the business model. And that's going to be why we see Mark Zuckerberg and the execs at Google and different people in trouble, and different people are saying, hey, uh, there's a loss of privacy. With this platform, without that being the case, how do you expect it to you said it goes against the grain. How do you expect it to be profitable? What is going to be the building blocks that makes this uh, work?
Yeah. So first off, it's not going to be through typical VC venture capitalists, because we don't want to compromise what we're trying to do,
Yeah,
or have somebody else have control of this. We're really going, so we're over here when everybody else is here.
gotcha.
So we also don't want to build this and then sell it. We don't want to go public with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it really puts us in an interesting place. So the way that we're going to build this out is actually a Kickstarter campaign,
Nice.
in order to, and with that, have our community back us, but also be part of this as we build this together.
Hmm. One of the I keep my day job, so I do coaching, but I keep my day job, and the money isn't really an issue. But what I enjoy is the idea of I'm not tied to money for my coaching. So if I decided at one point I wanted to coach someone for free, I'm not looking like, hey, I got to pay my light bill, so I can't give this person a chance. I can't help that person. I need to fit someone into that slot. So the separation of money from purpose, I think, becomes a really, really important thing. Speaking of, let me really quickly, I want to pop this Kickstarter info up here, because I do think it's going to be a really important thing, because what you're talking about really is going against the grain. You're talking about a complete 180 from what social media is, and you're talking about doing it, and it sounds like, I mean, even though we know that money will be involved, and it is for all of us, there's a altruistic portion of this here. So can you kind of dig into that a little bit? Like, why are you doing this? What got you started on this? So we can really kind of delve into the why.
Absolutely, and this will be, it's a membership based, it's subscribing based.
Gotcha.
The why of how this all came about was, this is really coming from a loss of connection to myself,
Mm,
and throughout the years of being in unhealthy relationships, and really, once I was in the relationship of losing the relationship with myself,
mm, mhm.
and then repeat the process, and then
Right.
on the side of this is when I was not in, is to looking for a partner again, is being
Yeah.
online dating. And so I was seeing the struggles of what online dating was doing, and or what it was not doing. And it was
Mm,
this, almost became this artificial, superficial world of temporary happiness, where people were
yeah.
jumping and jumping. But as soon as it was time to get really intimate or vulnerable, to have to really get to know each other, they were on to the next. It was almost like they had a fear of it.
Yeah.
So this whole thing really came from my own journey, and it started with XXO. Originally, the root of it was an offline matchmaking service to disrupt the online dating world.
Hmm.
In which case, it took a completely different turn, but
Yeah.
at the same time, connection being the root of it all. So it's close to it, but it has nothing to do with dating anymore.
Let me ask you, what happened that it took that turn?
What happened was, I went to bed on a Friday night. I just ended my career, my relationship, a 7.5 year career. knowing that Friday night, the next morning, I get up at 4 in the morning. It's my personal growth time for 1 hour, my meditation time.
Mhm.
Knowing the next time, the wake up Saturday morning that I was all in, how to get the offline matchmaking service. I was all in because I wasn't aligned with my career anymore. 7.5 years, I went through a massive transformation. That wasn't the same person I was when I first
Sure.
started. And so I was really aligned with my purpose and vision. So I knew waking up Saturday. Well, I woke up Saturday, 4 o'clock in the morning. It was 4:31 in the morning when I had this moment where it was almost like a download. I literally had this like flash where I saw everything. I said, I was thinking too small. This is
Mm.
not what I want to do. It's almost like I had a clear space to create space. I got rid of the
Yeah.
space of that wasn't used, which was weighing me down for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
Saw all of this, and literally within a moment, I saw everything, which is what we've built out.
Wow. Um, was it initially, was the initial driver for this uh, just the fact that you saw a need, so you wanted to fill a need, or was it something else, I guess, that got you started on the path?
It's fill the need of I mean, it fill the internal void. Everybody's filling void externally,
Yeah.
and many are right now. And it's so we have this loss of worth. And so how do we fill it internally? Which is, to me, connection is the root of it all. If you took vulnerability and intimacy, vulnerability times intimacy is connection. Connection is absolutely the root of it all. And so looking for a way to, I call it connection over convenience. Today, a lot of relationships and even online dating is built on convenience, but
Mhm.
relationships are not built on convenience. It's built on
Right.
connection. So
Yeah.
how do we bring it back to ourselves? And the
Mm.
only way was to remove all distraction. And so connection over convenience and XXO became this much larger vision I had once I woke up that
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
So it's an interesting trip because uh, I know for me, I've had a similar journey. I wish mine came all in a flash, but it was really more over time. And I had obviously we're taught growing up that the connection with money is going to be the connection with happiness or fulfillment, that sort of thing. So one of the things that actually happened for me is that I initially I saw that I was really, really good at helping people with business plans and marketing plans and that sort of thing. So I started that business. I started that business maybe 15 years ago, and I was actually genuinely really good at it. And what I realized is that I was not hitting the mark or getting the feeling that I was looking for. So I helped several people start businesses where afterwards they would say things like, I don't really know if I like this anymore. I want to move on to something different.
Yeah.
And eventually I burned out. It stopped being fun to me. I had a similar thing with helping people with careers, and I'm helping people to get really high profile jobs, working with recruiters, that sort of thing, getting people into big fours, and it's good money. It's the whole thing is good. And the same thing, after I would go back to the person, we talk a year later and they'd say, this is crap. I hate this. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't want to be here. Can you give me a hand for something else? And for residual business, that's great. But for the idea of helping people, which is the thing that I really felt like was my purpose, it really didn't seem like I was doing much. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago when I really started to look into coaching as a thing where I really got that sort of aha moment. So I can really ID with where you're coming from, because now this doesn't feel like work at all. It doesn't feel hard at all. When it comes to you and it comes to this, can you spell out where the end game is, where your purpose is? Like, what do you see this doing?
Yeah, and what everything you just described was the journey. To
Yeah.
me, you find your purpose through life experience, and it sounds like it took that time until you
Yeah.
lined up. There was kind of that place where it's a moment where you lined up, but it really wasn't defined by a moment. It's defined by a lifetime of your journey. And so once you align with your purpose, things change quickly. Things get kind of quiet, and you can really hear everything. So that morning for mine, when everything aligned for me,
Hmm.
the end, as you call it, the end game, or the, I said, I put a number on it. I said, I want restoring connection to humanity, 1 million lives, transforming 1 million lives by 2025.
Nice.
And so what that means is by 2025 is a million members. That's just getting us started. That's just getting started. I want to keep going. So really the end game is to restore connection to humanity. Just keep going. There's no end to it.
Gotcha. Now this is what it becomes
Kenneth,
amazing to.
I love Kenneth.
Yeah. Kenneth is part of the crew of people who I love every time when we're watching anyone's live. He's always jumping in. Thank you, Kenneth. Um, Boy, I lost my train. Oh, so for me, this idea of a journey is great because I think it sets up where I think most of the entrepreneurs and even most of the people who I knew who were chasing careers in a place where they're lacking quite a bit. And this is the main reason, we talked a little bit about, what you'd actually addressed being on the show. And one of the things I found remarkable is that you were so in touch with your why. And I really want to dive into that because I want other people to kind of get an idea of if, LinkedIn is mostly people trying to work, trying to make businesses, trying to make their business successful, trying to network in that sense. But I do think that there's a bit of it that gets lost. So let's start from where you were career-wise. Was there something in the initial career that said to you, "Hey, Jason, I'm not working," or what happened? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I love that. So my previous career, which I was at for 7.5 years, and it's interesting how everything kind of the journey, how they all kind of locks together.
Yeah.
Um, it was almost a startup within the auto industry. It was a startup within Buick and GMC for a local area. And so 2013, I just came off of, I wrote a book and published a book, and I was working with that. And
Mm,
January 2013, it was a startup within Buick and GMC, and so they needed to enhance their online presence. Their online world was so far back; it was almost like in 1970 still.
yeah.
So creating their brand management, online presence, their lead management, it just went on and on. And
Hmm.
so what they did is I was looking at what they're doing, and they would consider these inquiries as leads. And to me, they weren't leads, they were customers on the other side requesting information. They didn't see
Yeah.
it that way, and they saw it as this is the standard best practice. The lead comes in, you send them this template, and that's how it is. And I said,
You fell to him. Yeah.
yeah. And I said, well, that's how you do it. That's not how I'm going to do it. So if we're going to continue, I'm going to change the culture internally, and then we're going to change the culture externally. I said,
Hmm.
even then, I realized there was a fascination with connection, and I said, this is what we're going to do. I said, this lead that just came in is actually there's a name. It's Kelly, right? And so you're going to send back a personal video to Kelly. Literally, you go, "Hi Kelly, thank you so much for the request on the blah blah blah." So literally, I sent you a personal video back, right?
Hmm.
And they said, "No, you're not going to do that." I said, "No, everybody's going to do that." And maybe 2-3 months later, the whole team of the old car salesmen on the floor from the old style, they were gone, and all new people. We brought in a whole different group of people who were
Right.
willing to do this, and we curved the culture. And it left 2019. We were over 10,000 personal videos. But even back then, I had a fascination with connection, one-on-one connection. I want to get your attention. I want to talk to you. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to send you a template. I'm actually going to hold up a phone and say your name and send you a personal video.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this really, the why, like I was fascinated with connection.
That's an interesting piece. Let me jump in here with Olivia's question because I think it's going to actually take a. I think it's going to, what we're talking about is turning really into what she's talking about. Olivia asks, yes, any tips on getting clarity around the why? Now, let me ask you, at what point do you think, I mean, because some of this is just life you're living, you may not have the foresight to know, oh, hey, this is a significant moment. At what point does it become significant? At what point do you know, oh, this is purpose versus this is just me living day to day?
I went. I was talking about the unhealthy relationships that I was in, and one of them, the last unhealthy relationship I was in, when it ended, I went on a massive transformation. I
Okay,
really, I didn't jump back online to just, I call it seasonal love, jumping right to the next person. I knew at that point there was something that I needed to do to establish the relationship with myself, and that led me on a couple of years of just such an interesting journey and transformation. And my why didn't just appear, but over time with that, I realized what I was doing and then what everybody else was not doing. And I
gotcha.
realized I had that moment of that's my why. It's connection, which I was fascinated with. I had this loss of connection to myself, and I was seeing what online dating was doing as well. And all these things just somehow clicked. And I
Gotcha.
said, and it was like one of those things where I said, I'm gonna live my life. I'm gonna make the incision and do the work, the inner work on myself. And during that time when I was doing the inner work is when I kind of found my why.
So now I find this to be pretty interesting because uh, again I can ID with where you're coming from, and I do think that your sense of purpose and your why can be born out of something that's not working. I think as long as you're kind of going along with the status quo, a lot of times you won't necessarily get, oh, hey, this isn't working, this isn't clicking, because it is working for the most part. And the underlying things are things that you're missing. Um, to answer Olivia's question, and let me get your take on this too. I would say that the first step in clarifying your why is coming to an understanding of you, understanding where you're not happy, what's not working, and trying to bridge the gap between that and under whatever you understand to be um, something that does work, something that does fit. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I think purpose in the why, and they're all very similar. It comes
Mhm.
from life experience. And so under that life experience, it could be adversities, trauma. There's so many different things.
Mhm.
But there's a point that comes where it's time to live your life and not somebody else's. And it's time to find that connection to yourself. And for
Mhm.
me, that was my why when all of those things connected. When I actually started spending time with myself and things got
Yeah,
quiet and I could hear myself. And I guess maybe diving deeper into the why, it was led by intuition. Like I could hear myself and I could hear that intuition and I just started to follow that. That was my why. It was almost like led by intuition at that point. Establishing relationship with yourself. Absolutely. That's
yeah,
connection
yeah.
begins within and travels outwards. So once you have that relationship with yourself, I think then things get quiet where you can really find your why, which to me, why and purpose are very much
Yeah.
parallel, if not the same.
So this becomes a little bit if you work that out, what it feels like this is leading is getting to a place where you can trust yourself. Because what it sounds like is that you started off in a place where you're kind of maybe letting the outside sources of the outside motivators to basically say, "Hey, this is where we're going next." But it sounds like you, because of whatever happened with those relationships, you changed that. Is that about right?
That's so that you nailed it. Like I went internal. Everything I was living externally,
Okay.
I was trying to fill the void externally, feeling even happiness. Like I was so into each relationship of giving everything. I'd literally give all of myself
Yep.
to make the other person happy. And I like that. However, I would lose myself completely. So
Yeah.
once I flipped it and filled it internally, just how you
Yeah.
described it, that was it. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love how you put that.
I what I see in most of these cases, and this is something I've done myself, is we're using relationships, and a lot of times as uh, we're using relationships to kind of fill our own void, not realizing that these are bottomless pits. Like no one else can do it. So it's like you got to get to a place for yourself, and that means doing a lot of self work. When uh, if you don't mind sharing, or if you're okay with sharing this, what
So
where were your struggles with this? Because it usually isn't easy to admit to yourself that, man, I got a void, or there, usually people run from that. So what do you think make that workable for you?
I think it was just because of these relationships were just I recognized there was a loop, a cycle, and it was a few, but there was one in particular relationship that was much more unhealthy than the others. It was very much different at a different level, and so once that did end, and it really at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the other person. It
Right.
was like an abusive environment. It doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the other person. You have to take responsibility and look back at yourself. And that was the first time where I think I said, this was about me. It's nothing about the other person. That's just a reflection of something that's missing in
Yeah.
me. And so I think that's what really kind of cracked me open. And I started researching, and then I found
Yeah.
different inspirational, motivational, transformational people online that I kind of latched onto, and they helped me unwire and rewire. But it was one of those moments where I realized it's time for me to accept responsibility for my own journey and not anybody else.
I love that, man. I love that. And I don't know if you have done some self-talk about this, but I try to tell everybody I work with on this, that is courage, man. Like that is darn courageous because most people won't do it. Most of us are sitting back like, I am completely afraid of what I might find on the other side of this. Do you have more courage than other people, or what's the difference?
No, so what you just everything that you just said is the reason why we're building out this platform, because it's from what I've gone through is and I just got off a podcast with Annie Lieb, and she was on my podcast months ago, and we had this conversation, and I helped her through it. Is that as soon as things get quiet
Yeah.
and we have to face ourselves, it's so uncomfortable and painful, and so we're going to use a distraction, go to the next thing, so we don't have to spend time with ourselves, get to know ourselves.
Yes.
So there comes a time where you have to fight that, and even Annie, we've talked about it on our podcast, is that I told her you have to fight it because it's
Yeah.
going to be painful, and so you're going to do the easiest thing to cover it up by jumping to the next distraction, relationship, whatever it is, but you're going to have to fight it, because as you fight it, just stay with it, because once you go through that painful process, you're finally going to open up and get to know yourself. So people don't like this, that painful part, that period of time, that which nobody wants to do. So it's either you're going to do it and be able to get past it, or you're going to keep running from it, running from yourself. And that is why we're creating the XXO Connect platform, a
Yeah.
place where it makes it easier to fill that gap during that uncomfortable time, to really get to know yourself. That was a great tie-in. Kelly, you're great at this.
Well, thank you. One of the things that I recognize, though, is that because there's such a huge void, and just last week, I was working with behavioral scientist George Ellerick. I was mentioning it to you, and
That's awesome.
he and I were just, oh yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
We were having this whole conversation about how do you create systems, which is what makes this so crazy and funny and unique. I'm asking him, how do you create systems to enhance that sort of thinking? Because to your point, Olivia, these are the things that any coach is going to recommend. That you surround yourself with people who are positive. That you surround yourself with an environment that enhances your growth, and rather than some of the negative places where we find ourselves, where we're like, hey, I if you're doing well, we're like crabs in a barrel. The what exactly Jason is talking about with XXO is the exact sort of situation we're talking about, where you have a chance to dive in on who you are and what things are painful for you. So let me ask you this, Jason. When we're talking about the platform itself, I know it's subscription based and that sort of thing. Is there, so I don't want you to have to give up too much of your information, but I know that there's typically a life cycle for people in membership organizations. Is this a forever growth sort of thing? Do people graduate? When do you know that you're okay, or how does that work?
Yeah, and I'm gonna ask answer Olivia, then I'll come right to that. Is that, Olivia, for you, is that just some of the people that come to my mind through my journey that I just went to for my um, processes programs is I started with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I learned how to unwire and rewire the brain. And so I would recommend looking up Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was very fascinated by him. He led me to Wim Hof, learn about breath work and cold showers, and that led me to Dorian Yates and his journey. Who I knew Dorian Yates from years ago, and mastering the mindset. And then Dandapani, who he was a monk, and it just led me to all these very interesting people who I learned their processes, and so that kind of helped me get through my little period of time. Um, Kelly, for you, is that personal growth once you kind of open up the door, it becomes a lifestyle.
Mhm.
It's not a temporary like a period of I'm gonna just go through my little phase of personal growth because it's not a phase. It's a life journey at that point and
Mhm.
continuing to better yourself. So I have no idea of a life cycle because it's something so different. But I know if you're truly working on yourself, once you step in to personal development, personal growth, and you this is very meaningful to you, it's a
Mhm.
life journey. You're never going to stop. You're going to keep changing and keep upgrading, and you're really like upgrading your software and your hardware. And so for us is constantly coming up with new ways and different things so nothing becomes stale. So
Gotcha.
everybody's going to enter our platform at a different level. And the beautiful thing is they kind of create their own path and journey because we're not saying you have to start it here and you end here. We're going to have a very welcoming onboarding connection process, and it's going to have them at a starting point of depending on where they are. But there'll be
Yeah.
so many things we keep adding to help them through the journey. So to me, it's a lifelong journey. And if just like people who've built a community here and
Yep.
in LinkedIn or wherever else, we want that a lifelong community. You're
Yeah.
building a community and you love going back there because that is your safe space. That's like
Yep.
that is your place of your own community. So
I like
I think it's a lifelong journey. Once you step in, you want to upgrade and change, but you don't leave it.
I love that concept.
Joel's
What I
here. Sorry, Joel. I see Joel.
Yeah, totally, man. You bring out everybody. You bring out everybody, Jason. Everybody came out for you. Um,
Hello.
One of the things that I really enjoy is the idea of being content with what you have, but never being never being stagnant. You know, and I love that concept. Um, One of the things that it sounds like you're pushing people into though is having to face um, at least some of their own hangups. Is therapy built into this? Is there, what kind of tools are people looking at?
The platform is built with therapists and coaches and many
Nice.
other people. So we're covering so many different subjects because of the people, the team, the founding team. They've gone through their own lifelong journeys and traumas and diversity or adversity, everything else. And so they are all experts and professionals in their own field. So we took all these different elements of social media, um, therapy, connection, just on and on and on. And we kind of put all these things together to build out to cover everything. So it is built by a team of professionals. And I know Chantel Sumas, who we all know on LinkedIn, she's a founder with me. So she's a
Hmm.
big part of this. I have Walter Thorne, who's also on LinkedIn. And then the other members are not really on LinkedIn; they're on different platforms. But we found I found a team that aligned with my purpose and vision, and was able to then just give it to them and said, "I want you to
To do
put
that.
who you are in this and take this and create this energetic tidal wave, so we can really make a difference." This is way past me.
Yeah,
This is just I got this started, but this is for all of us to be able to make a difference and really curve the culture back to connection over convenience.
I love this. Speaking of, let me drop this link back in here. Everyone, Jason is kicking this off, and you have a chance to actually play a part in this. What we're talking about is a game changer, honestly. And Jason, can you speak to your understanding of the current model? And you know, we talked about it a little bit, but for the people who are just coming in, I really want them to understand why this is such a 180 from what social media does now.
Social media is really built for connection to others. What we're doing is building a safe space to create connection to self and then others. And so it's a global safe space, personal growth, transformational and wellness platform created to restore and accelerate human connection,
Hmm.
curve the culture back to connection over convenience, and eliminate the fear of vulnerability and intimacy. And so, as we said, we're going so against the grain where it's a safe space to have this training ground, to have these one-on-one videos, to watch educational videos, to watch live
Hmm.
events, for kids to consume this content in a way that kids do in cartoons, and also create a safe space from your information, just like the social dilemma, the documentary just came out. We aren't having any alternative logins, no Facebook, Google, no other logins except for the
Yeah.
internal XXO Connect login to protect your information. So we're creating a safe space, to eliminate social media abuse, to eliminate loneliness, to eliminate trying to find that happiness externally. We're really diving into all these things and creating this
Yeah.
very different platform.
So when when I go, so I'm mainly active on LinkedIn. I get Facebook and Twitter and those other ones, but and I caught you and Annie. You guys were kind of talking about some of the connections on LinkedIn, and it does seem to be almost a different vibe. Um, are you what as you're building out this platform? Um, are you seeing it? Is which how many different things can you do on this platform? Because what it sounds like is that it's social, but it can also be romantic. It can also be where people are building teams for work. How grand or how many different uses are you guys looking at this point?
I mean, I think it's gonna expand as we expand it and we kind of grow into it. But it's not a business platform. It's really a personal growth. So it's not like there's no other platforms like it. So there's not profiles where you're connecting with. Literally, when you have these one-on-one videos, it is random based on you
Gotcha.
might have watched a certain video that really triggered something for you, and you want to talk about that. And so a member within the XXO community would pop up if you wanted to have a video conversation. You guys can share in these conversations. We can lead the way for you, or you guys can lead it yourself,
Nice.
essentially. Um, but it's definitely not a business platform at all. It's not
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
I gotta admit, I love that also because uh, my personal feeling is once you introduce monetary gain as a as an incentive, once you incentivize that, it does change a lot of the things. Um, so okay, let me pop on another. Well, actually, you know what? Let me take a quick moment to kind of mention some of the people who are in the crowd because again, people I
Absolutely.
think come out for you, Jason. They seem to really like you. So we got a few LinkedIn users. I'm not sure who those guys are, but Rosalind Krieger.
So anybody who has LinkedIn user, a little tip for you is that you probably have your profile on private. So if you switch from private to public, it'll switch to who you are.
Thanks so much.
LinkedIn tip.
Let's see. Kenneth, obviously, Kenneth Dunner is in.
Savor the
Uh,
flavor, Kenneth.
that's right, scrumptious. Uh, Olivia has joined us. Marcello has joined us. Joel, I love your stuff, man. I'm always reading everything you're putting out. Enrique has joined us, and let's see if there's anyone else that I missed here. All right, great. So those are all of our people who are throwing in comments and everyone's kind of interacting. Um, Let me get back to you, Jason, and sort of the trajectory here. So I want to I want to introduce people to however much of this that you're telling people about now. What do you tell me is my journey if I'm brand new to this? So you see me for the first time. How are you selling me? What are you telling me I'm going to be able to get and do?
Well, seeing you for the first time inside the
Yeah.
platform.
Well, you're introducing me to the platform and you're telling me why I should go to it or why I should try it out.
Well, I would ask you, what is the relationship that you have with yourself right now?
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I would say how comfortable are you right now with? It's interesting because I will never convince anybody of
Yeah.
anything, and so it's a place where to start off, a lot of people are not ready to, as I say, make that incision in the personal
Yeah.
growth field arena. However, we're in a time right now where there's so many people who have chosen to either move in that way or they're at such a crossroad now where they're tired of everything that's going on with social media. They're tired of the typical what we have. So it really is such an alternative now to go to a place to try something different. It really is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love this just in general, man. And obviously you and I we spoke a little bit last week, and I first off I love the fact that you sent me a personal video when we first connected months ago. You sent me a personal video, and it was one of the things that made me realize how much even on LinkedIn, where I think there's a little bit more of a close knit, family ish sort of vibe to it. Obviously everyone's a little bit different, but it made me realize how distant we are from each other. When you see your platform, when you think about your purpose and why you're doing this, um, can you kind of expand on what you see? I mean, I know you kind of said it's sky's the limit, but I want to kind of get an idea of your vision of it. Like what do you see at the end of this? What do you see people getting to?
Connection to themselves and then others. So I see that we actually curve the culture back to connection over convenience. And so we become connected again to ourselves. Our the relationships when the relationships with ourselves improves, we can then have healthy relationships with others. So it starts with that healthy relationship with yourself. So where this is going is creating healthy relationships with individuals, and they can have these healthy, happy relationships with other people where they're not relying on to have that happiness filled externally. So we're really, I mean, it's like an unwiring, rewiring, and then just curving a culture.
Now, I'm glad you kind of got to it because when when we start talking about purpose or we're talking about our why, and that's the chief piece here, at least the chief piece that I want to make sure that anyone listening is getting. Um, your purpose seems to have to do with not only not only building a business, not only building this infrastructure. Not it seems to have to do with people. It seems to be the case that you've made this sort of connection to you, and now it's going outward.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's all about people, and so for me, this has gone. This whole, this is going through me. This has really. I mean, this is so. I'm obsessed with this because this is my purpose, and but this is like going through me as you kind of described. Yeah, it's about people. It's about having people. There's their search to find themselves and to be able to live their life how they choose to live it, as opposed to living somebody else's life, finding that connection with themselves, and then they can find a connection with others, as opposed to how we're doing it now. Because to me, we're losing, like toxicity continues to rise, self worth is continuing to
Yeah,
fall. And to me, at this point, we're going to have like intimacy and vulnerability will become extinct. Like to me, like that's what will happen if XXO Connect did not exist. That is what's going to happen. And I want to curve it. I want to stop it and
yeah.
reverse it.
I think that this is a beautiful thing because the more we get into this, the deeper we go into this. This really is when you say the words "it's going through me." I think that makes all the sense in the world. And I think that changes everything because what it sounds like is that we're doing all this discussion about your why and your purpose and this sort of thing. But I think that what you're bringing up is that there your purpose has to be a part of a hope, a part of a vision, a part of something that you see being different. And I don't know that everyone's purpose has to be changing the world,
Sure.
but it does seem to be the case that everyone's purpose has to be about making something change, about making something better. Uh, because what it sounds like when Olivia is asking about, hey, well, what kind of things do you do, or what it sounds like when you're really talking about the steps of discovering your own purpose, it sounds like first you got to get to know yourself. I mean, you make that point very, very clear. But then after that, when you got to like you have yours obviously came from your own things that you went through in your life. Most people aren't seeing that though. Most people that at best, most people are going to say, "I struggled with this or that sucked in my life. Let me feel this void." Why does yours go through you to something greater?
I think I think a lot of people will continue to live in the past, and so they can choose to which I consider existing, or you can either live or simply exist. And so when you continue to live in the past, it's almost like hiding from it. And so
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are actually afraid to live their own life, and something that they, whatever the purpose that they want to do. I don't care what it is. If
Hmm.
it's something that they truly want to do, but I think they fear being judged, or they fear the opinions of others. I think, or maybe something happened in the past, and so they're living in the past because these emotions store in your body. And so they're constantly thinking of the what if it doesn't, what if, this person thinks of this. And so I truly think that they're not really, again, that connection to themselves, that there's a disconnect, and they're not living their life. It might seem it, but if there's something they want to do and they're not doing it, there's a reason why. And it's usually because if something's holding them back, and it's not them, but they're letting whatever external, whatever it is, hold them back.
I love that. I love that sentiment. People are being connected to whatever's holding them back versus whatever they're really trying to get to. You used
Can
another. Yeah,
you know what it is? It's like, it's how do we push the human race forward? How do we, and that can be in so many different things, right? How do
yeah,
we make things better? How do we make a positive change? And I don't, it doesn't have to be you're changing the world. It could be
right.
you're doing something for one person. I don't care what it is, but don't be afraid to do it. Just if you want to do it, just do it. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
I love
And I
that,
know
man.
Kenneth has a great story, because I know he's talked about his journey, and he's loved his job for, I think, Kenneth, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, 39 years, I think, comes to mind. Of, you've been in a career that you chose yourself for 39 years. And I know he's happy, and so he's a great role model for all of us, Kenneth Dunner.
That I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Kenneth was just mentioning some of this too. Um, and Kenneth, that's actually a great point. That it has to be something greater than just you, because I think the point that Jason is making is that we're typically trying to feed our own emptiness, and we can't do it. But once we're actually able to feed someone else's emptiness with us being better people, it actually helps us all in the long run. Um, let me ask you about this. You mentioned another word that I thought really kind of gave rise to a sense of purpose. You said that you're obsessed with this. Um, was this on that Saturday morning that you had to get up? Did you begin at obsessed and then just gone from there?
Yeah, I mean, when you ask, it Kenneth says your purpose is something greater than yourself, and to me, this was like a download. Like, it was like the universe gave this to me. Like, I saw the whole thing, which is really, I don't can't explain it, but I saw what it was, and it's like it's greater than me. And so to me, is like
Yeah.
taking ego, replacing with humility, and saying,
Mm.
I was gifted this. Here we go. Let's figure this out together. And that's where that whole kind of community, building a community around it, my team around it, and using Kickstarter to build a community to be part of this together. So it's beyond me.
I love that. The what I wonder and what I kind of question is if you're fortunate in the sense that you took that you had what I'm going to call courage, for lack of a better word, to take that step forward. Um, would you do you think that you'd be able to notice it, identify it if someone else tells you their story and be able to pinpoint the spot where they should have gone left instead of right and taken that next step?
I'm pretty good with, you know, with having one-on-one conversations, and
Okay.
and removing blocks. And so the podcast, the XXO podcast I created was really a way for me to have these really what we're creating at a large scale was
Yeah.
created one-on-one with these conversations and people that I've never met to remove the block. And so every time on the XXO podcast, we dive in, I'm able to kind of find out what that block is and help them remove the block to get past. And there's always this moment during the
Yeah.
podcast where like, I can't believe I said that, but then they realize like it helps to for during their transformation. And so I think we all have gifts. And I think it's just something that I'm able to kind of feel that energy of what it is. I mean, I can't explain it, but we all have some obsession. Like we want to do something once we lock onto it. And this for me is like my obsession is being able to my journey, what I went through. I don't want other people to have to go through those things. And I think a lot of people who come out on the other side also want to help people so they don't have to go through that. And that's
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're really accelerating human connection.
I think that's awesome, man. One of the things that really kind of comes across is the connection you feel with this as a project, with this as a goal, and again, what I'm hoping to do is just kind of pick apart, man, all of the different little tidbits that you're given, because I haven't heard your full story until tonight, and to be able to take some of that and say, for Olivia or Kenneth or anyone who's listening, who's paying attention, if you're looking for your way, this is what it's going to look like. This is going to be a thing that you can notice or pinpoint. So when you're doing that for your guests on the podcast, what can you give the guest here? Can you give the people listening here an idea of what they should look for? You know, like you mentioned, hey, if you feel like there's something you're obsessed with, you want to do it, do it. But can you give them something to look for, something to go toward?
I think they have to go towards what they really want to do. I think we all have it in us of something that we want to do,
So
but
we're
it's
already
almost
drawn to it.
we're drawn to it, but it's almost like plaque that builds up, right? And over time it builds and builds. And that plaque is really the judgment, opinions of others, the beliefs of
Yeah.
the reality. And it's really when I thought stop thinking small and stop believing in reality is when like I was able to start and I was like cutting through the plaque into myself again. And I discovered by living and spending time with myself truly what I loved. So it's really when you spend time with yourself, by yourself, alone at times,
Mm,
is you really hear yourself, what's going on, and you find out what you love or don't love. And so
yeah.
I think we all have it in us. It's just a matter of then having, as you say, the courage just to take that one step. And to me, it's not like it doesn't happen all at once. And it to
Yeah.
me, it's like if you write a letter and then you write a second letter, and then all of a sudden a word forms, and then another word, and then a sentence, and then a paragraph, and then a chapter and a novel. It's like it's one letter at a time, one step at a time. But it's like just stepping out of that comfort zone and just going for what you want. But I think we all have it in us. It's just hearing it and really believing in ourselves to do it.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, any suggestions on how to quiet our minds enough to listen to ourselves? Because it sounds like that was a big part of this.
Go without to go within. So you have to come to a time where you
Hmm.
have to. For me, it's morning. For me, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. But whether it's five, it doesn't matter. Everything's so quiet. Don't
Yeah.
grab your phone or whether at night. So when I wake up, I have my personal growth time where there's no distraction. So I can just spend time with myself. And spending time with myself doesn't mean me alone scrolling. It means me alone, no phone. Just I can meditate. I do breath work.
Hmm.
So my day starts that way, and then my day finishes that way with again no phone time, just sitting there, just listening to everything, and I can hear myself. And
Hmm.
everything gets very quiet, and I can spend that time with myself, and I can decide what I like to do, what I don't like to do. So for me, my day ends that way, and then it's going to start that way. So it's like this cycle for me. But it's when you do those types of things, it doesn't cost you anything,
That's right.
right? Go without to go within. That's right. And just when things get quiet, you can hear yourself, and that's when you figure out what you want to do. You'll hear things that you've never heard before, because I'm sure you haven't spent that time with yourself like that and
Hmm.
years and years and years because we live with this. This is
Mm.
this is this is a great tool, but there's also a time where this is a great tool and we have to get away from everything for just quiet time.
Yeah. The last. Oh, I'm sorry. Kenneth jumped in here. Kenneth, I gotta turn it off before bed. uh, uh, so the last thing I want to kind of go over with you. I feel like each guest that I talk to, everyone has this inner journey, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing because it's not mine. It's not my journey. And we talked a little bit before about the fact that you're going to grow in a different way from me, and we're going to have different everything probably. But there's still something so universal about humanity. Um, so to me, what I want to do is get I want to get I want to get the what a win looks like for you. Um, so at the end of your life, you're on your deathbed or whatever the case. You know that this is ending for you. How do you know that Jason Leibowitz had a great life? How do you know that you're happy with everything? What does that
I
life look
know,
like?
yeah, I know that I have no regrets. I curved the culture back to connection. I know I made an impact. I started this cultural shift, and I know that somebody's going to take that after me, and I lived my life. At the end of the day, I curved the culture back to connection over convenience. I lived my life. I lived my purpose, and that's when I can shut my eyes and enjoy the quiet time, the forever quiet time at that time.
Whew, Jason, thank you so much, man. It is I gotta applaud you, brother. Thank you so much for
I love
yeah, well, look, I appreciate the time this evening. Obviously, this is gonna be up on Facebook, on YouTube. It's gonna be up on and LinkedIn, obviously. Uh Olivia, Kenneth, all you guys, thank you so much for chiming in. Thank you so much for your thoughts. You guys can always follow me on LinkedIn. You can obviously follow Jason on LinkedIn. We have some great hashtags for you guys, so make sure that you follow all these hashtags. And Jason, one more time, I'm going to just throw up the Kickstarter info so
absolutely. I
that
wanted yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I appreciate all of you guys. And please, if you've enjoyed this conversation and the XXO Connect platform network app that we're going to build out, please go to that link to kickstarter.com/projects/XXO Connect/XXO. The link is there. Please go to help back us to support us so we can build this platform and get it off the ground. And in doing so, there's some amazing reward tiers. There's different level memberships. There's ways you can be a cartoon character in one of our
nice.
episodes. We'll actually use your voice. We'll record your voice. We'll make a cartoon character with your name, make it look like you. You'll be part of our product development team. There's so many different places for you to be part of our community to build this out. But please go there, help to back and fund us because we only have a limited amount of days. We only have 44 days
That's right.
to fund this in order to build this out. So I appreciate that. And Kelly, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it with you.
And look, everyone, I'm gonna drop this in a post. So once this is done, you'll see this Kickstarter link in the post also. All right, Jason, hold on for me, buddy. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play us out with my odd little with my odd little ending outro, and I'll talk to you backstage.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Ta-da!